this whole mindset of is better than perfect, get rid of some of those things that will take 2 to 3 minutes a piece and get
Mhm.
those off the list so that you can start to feel like you have made some progress to kind of tackle those bigger things.
Hey guys, welcome back to Real Estateable, your go-to podcast for raw, real, and relevant information in the real estate world. Today we are talking about done is better than perfect, and Tiffany is cringing right now just thinking about this topic.
I know when we talked about bringing this kind of to the forefront, I was like, are we going to be calling me out the whole time? There is so many different things that I think we can all take away from this. I think that we live in a very distracted world, and as agents without a set schedule on a daily basis, everything changes. It is hard to be have the concept of just get it done and don't worry about perfection in the middle of it. So let's give it a listen. It's going to be awesome.
All right, so we are back from another conference. You know that conferences are huge to us. We learn a lot there, and we want to go ahead and share some of the things that we've learned. And so they had a whole session on done is better than perfect. And I think that, especially in our business, everything is overcritical, right? So we want our pictures to look the best. We want our social to look the best. And we want we want to have the best responses. But sometimes we spend way too much time on perfecting these items when done is just better than being perfect.
Well, and we during this convention, one of the local agents in a neighboring marketplace spent the last couple of days with us, and it was funny. I was talking with Nicole, one of the agents that's on team with us, and I said it's crazy how much social media she pushed out while we were there,
Mhm.
and none of it was perfect, but it was done, and there was a ton of content that she put out. I mean, like probably a dozen posts a day between reels and stories and everything else. But it was her, she like totally got this concept of like something is better than nothing. And I look back and I'm like, okay, I kept up with stories, but I did not do a ton of other stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that concept of like, man, the impact, she's all over my social media right now,
Yeah.
all over social media. And I'm like, man, if I could just get over the fact that I do not have to perfect every little thing, it would be so much more successful for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, and I think when you're kind of planning out your day, right? So even when you start, say, a workout plan or trying to eat a meal plan, you're always going to start with smaller goals. So when you're thinking about done is better than perfect, when you're starting your checklist, pick something that you know you can succeed at.
Yeah, 100%.
So you're picking the task that might be something easy. And if you're relating it to, say, just trying to be productive and maybe you're trying to start to work out or whatever it is, like go for a walk. Done is better than perfect. You don't have a lot of time to go to the gym. Go for a quick walk. It's still moving your body, still kind of having the same effects. So when you're looking at your to-do list, pick some of the things that you can check off right away that are easy and get those out of the way.
Yeah, and I think there's always been the concept of like do the hardest things first. And I think in this whole mindset of is better than perfect, get rid of some of those things that will take 2 to 3 minutes a piece and get
Mhm.
those off the list so that you can start to feel like you have made some progress to kind of tackle those bigger things. I'm not saying do all of the fun stuff, the little stuff first, but I definitely think getting rid of those easier things might motivate you to kind of progress through to the rest. The other thing too is think about why these things are important. So when you're looking through your list of things that need to get done, those overwhelming tasks, okay, but why does it need to get done? Because there is, for every action, there's a reaction,
Mhm.
and every action is going to create some type of response to that. And so make sure that you're thinking about it that way as well. It's like, okay, why should I be doing this? Is the motivation and the why going to actually get you to take the action? For sure. I think anybody, yes.
Yeah. And I think when you're looking at why is this item a priority? In our business, we have deadlines. So if you have something that's due today, you're not going to put that on tomorrow's checklist and do things that are due next week, right? If you have a contract that's due or a counteroffer due or whatever it is, you have that timeline and you can prioritize what needs to get done based on your deadlines. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't want to miss that for sure.
Yeah.
Another tip would be to overestimate how long the task is going to take. And I think that um, I know I struggle with this sometimes, and I know you do. Hashtag you're always late. But just overestimating how long maybe a drive is going to take you to get to a showing, so you're not rolling in 5 minutes late. Overestimate if there's going to be traffic. Overestimate maybe this contract is going to take me a little bit longer to write because it's different, or I'm new, or whatever it may be. Just giving yourself a little grace time so that way you can stay on task, on schedule, and complete your to do list.
Well, and I think about that too. Like when I am time blocking out stuff, it's funny because I'll look back and I'll get like super hyper motivated to time block. And then I'm like, how the heck was I going to be from this meeting from 1 to 2 and then at a showing from 2 to 3? Like I gave
Yeah.
no grace period in between there to think, okay, that's a 30-minute drive between the two. So I think being realistic with that. I mean, I think that not only do most of your appointments take longer than you expect, especially if you're a talker, that then the travel time as well, making sure you're taking all of those things into account when considering this.
Well, I think too, when you look at your day, and they talked about Google Calendar and some other apps that we'll get into, but just making sure that you're writing it down somewhere. If it's in your calendar, if it's in your like on a notebook, a to do list, whatever it may be, just make sure it's there, right? So I think that that's a starting point because I literally unloaded everything onto my husband last night of all the things that I learned. And I'm like, one of my big takeaways was putting social media content creation into my calendar.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, I do struggle with that though, because I will cancel on myself
Always.
always. And so I'm like, okay, if I put it in my calendar, I need to make sure that I'm ready. I look okay for a camera. And I have some ideas because I literally remember I was talking about I had all these plans. I planned out like a whole social media plan, and then I didn't do all the videos I
Yeah, you
wanted to do.
didn't show up. Well, and on selling the suburbs
Hmm.
episode, she talked about getting up before the distractions were there.
Hmm.
And minimizing distractions is a big thing. So she would do her social media before the world woke up. Which,
Hmm.
if you go to selling the suburbs social media, she looks amazing.
Well,
She
no,
looks
she
amazing at
doesn't
that too.
record it
Oh,
in the
she just
morning. She
implements
just
that.
posts it at that
Okay.
time because she has it in her
I
calendar
mean, in
to
my head though, I'm like, she's superwoman.
like,
So
wow, how did you run and clean your dishwasher this morning already? It's 6 a.m.
I'm like, surely there's some crazy people like that. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, minimizing distractions. It might need to be into different pockets of time that make more sense just based off of like the less things have had the
Mhm.
chance to go wrong type scenario. I
Yeah.
know for me, distractions, and we talked about as a group, the group that was with us at this convention, we talked about whether a home office or an in office or a co-working space, where do we most successfully work. And I think that's different for every one of us, right? Like every single one of us has a different working style, and you guys know what your working style is. So where can you get the most effective work done? Some people, they have to be at home isolated where there's no fun to be had, with other people. Other people need that accountability, that there's someone in the office that's not distracting them but are watching and making sure that things are getting done too. What are
Yeah.
some other distractions that you think?
Oh, I mean, your phone is a
Yeah. Yeah.
distraction. Like you can scroll. I mean, for example, even this morning, so I went into the office before this and Katie was in there and I'm like, man, I have 87 emails. And I was like, what happened? Because I checked it this morning and I'm like, there's just no way. And so I'm getting distracted even just in my email when my priority was getting a repair amendment done.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wait, what am I doing? I don't need to go through my emails. I need to do this because this is my deadline. So just trying to stay on task because even when you're working, you can still get distracted by your work. I mean, I was in my email and I'm like, I don't need to be here. I need to be here, like somewhere
Hmm.
else. But I would say, different noises, music, that can be a distraction. So just kind of finding out where your workspace is, where you are most productive. I know for Tiffany, the office is where she's most productive, but I can be productive at my home office or at the office. So I feel like I have that. I don't know. Sometimes when there's too many of us in the office, it is distracting though.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it can be like a private space, but in the office
Hmm.
as well. So I think that, the environment does not need to be where it's not private, but in a public kind of space too.
Hmm.
I know for me, in one of the things my takeaway was the notifications for my apps on my phone.
Mm.
And just, that's email. My email notifies me. But having those notifications turned off for the non-pertinent apps, which is
Mm.
really everything, because we go in and we check social media how many times a day. We go in and we check our email as how many times a day. So there is no reason that you cannot be on those apps, distraction free without being alerted every single time something happens. So turning those off, that was a big takeaway for me too, in focusing on the stuff that
Mhm.
needs to get done.
And don't be afraid, guys. I know we always say, "Oh, we're available 24/7." Well, realistically, we're not. We are human. We sleep
Yeah.
sometimes, right? Don't be afraid to put your phone on do not disturb when you're trying to do a task and that you know it needs to be done. Like maybe you're going through your email. Well, you don't need to be checking your text messages while you're going through your email. I promise you, your people, your clients will be okay for that 30 minutes or an hour that you are going through your email. Don't
Mhm.
try to do it all at once. Try to separate and prioritize.
Yeah, for sure. I also like the idea, like as I'm time blocking for things. So an example would be portfolio reviews. So doing those on a rotational monthly basis. And so when I time block for that, I have time blocking preparing to do those, but then I also have time blocking for assembling them. I
Mhm.
have time blocking for pulling the reports that are needing to be. So when you sit down and you say, okay, I need to get portfolio reviews done, make sure you're prepared for the stage that you're being set up with,
Mhm.
for that. So doing the prep work ahead of time for what you need to avoid the disruptions where you're going into different, programs and different things like that, the more that you can stay focused and linear in what you're doing, to avoid the distractions. I think that really comes with
Yeah.
preparing for what you're doing.
Yeah, I think if you just identify the high and low capacity standard of what you're doing. So, like you said, this is you're fully immersed into these portfolio reviews. You're checking people's value, you're editing your Canva template, and packaging it all together. That takes time and concentration. So you want to make sure like you're not trying to do that while you're on the go. You need a dedicated time, space, place to do those and get it done so that they're correct because you don't want to send something
Hmm.
wrong. That
Yeah.
would be terrible.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I agree. What other things do you think that you can add to like preparing ahead of time so that you're avoiding interruptions? Like I know like making a list for me,
Yeah.
like making sure that like as I'm time blocking, it's like, okay, what are those things that I need to actually get done during that time block? Making lists, there's nothing more satisfying than checking off a
Oh,
list.
yeah.
For sure.
So I also make a list. I try to, especially on Sunday, I try to make like a week to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really specifically in any order. It's kind of just as I'm like, oh, I need to do this week and this and this. But yes, checking off the list is amazing. But I'm also making sure that I am in a dedicated workspace when I'm trying to do this list.
Mm-hmm.
So if it requires me to be at a desk or on my computer, I am in work mode. I'm sitting at my desk, either at home or at the office, and I'm focused. I'm not trying to watch Real Housewives and sit in my bed while I'm writing contracts. I know they talked about at the conference too, just kind of like dressing for
Mm-hmm.
your like if you work from home, get dressed. It might sound crazy, but if you're sitting on the couch in your PJs trying to do your work, you're probably not going to be as productive if you're in jeans, right? Nobody wants to sit in jeans
Yeah.
on the couch.
Yeah. Well, and I think that kind of all circles around to it. So you have like a dedicated home office with a desk with like it's all set up
Mhm.
in specific for that. I don't have that at home, but I also know that even if I did have that at home, I would not be working in it. Like
Mhm.
I just wouldn't be doing so we use space differently because of that. But I think that having that, office space wherever you're going, even if it's co-working space, you're going to be behind a desk working, you're going to be dressed for success. Today we got to staging. We just staged a property for our team earlier today, and Nicole said I should have wore workout clothes, and I was like, well, don't forget we're shooting social media after this, so like, yeah, your workout it would have been a completely different vibe of what we were doing. And
Mhm.
so I think that she dressed for like the success that she was having outside of like the little bit of the time block per se of the hard work that it took to get this staged. So I think that make sure that you're setting yourself up for success in those two ways. The place that you're doing it, what you're wearing, putting makeup on, taking a shower, brushing your teeth, like all of those things like you normally would. You need to be doing those things even if you're not in front of clients on a daily basis.
I notice a difference too when I work from home. If I'm in my pajamas and I'm like not getting ready, I am less productive because I'm just like I'll put my feet up on my desk and I'm like, what am I doing? Like I'm just like kicked back, either scrolling or checking my email, and I'm just way more relaxed. But if I'm dressed and ready to work, I'm gonna get it done.
Well, and even if you split your day too, because I know
Hmm.
you work a lot in the morning from home and then, you head out for appointments or whatever in the afternoon, get dressed ahead of time from the time that you're going to start working in the morning. That's a really great tip as well, just so that you have to do it anyways. And also the other thought too is that if you need to shoot some videos, do that first because you have to be ready for those videos. You have to be presentable behind those videos. So make that your first task. Make that be your 100% right off the bat, and that'll kind of check all the boxes all at one time. Ashley, you want to kick it off? What would you say one of the top things we should be doing?
Definitely have a calendar. So if you are still using a paper calendar, okay. But I would say a better type of calendar would be a digital one. So if you have an iPhone, you have an Apple Calendar, you can use Google Calendar, which is what I use. I know it's what you use as well. I love that because you can Google Calendar your clients for different appointments. So if you have showings or if you have a termite inspection or home inspection, they're able to track it in their calendar as well. Another option would be using Calendly. So it's an app and a website that you can create your availability, and then people can book appointments with you. So if you have an hour on Friday, they can book a phone call with you or a meeting or whatever it may be. So that way you have your availability out there and somebody, is working for your time.
Well, and I also think it eliminates the back and forth. I mean, even with other agents, even with like your broker, even with like honestly with your family, with your friends, it eliminates the back and forth of like, are you available then? Oh no, I'm not here.
Hmm.
Okay, then the back and forth. It could be like, here is just your availability. I know this was the number one thing taking away from the convention that I need to start implementing because there's so many people that need to be connecting with me, and that's a huge distraction. My agents that are like, hey, I need to sit down to do a market analysis with you. I need you to review this. I need to go over that. I need to be trained on those things. And those things take priority for me. But when I'm time blocking and I have set, a set schedule I'm trying to accomplish to be successful, I definitely see where the Calendly could be a game changer was where it's like, okay, cool. Here's my day. Just plug it in, like time block for us to have a
Hmm.
conversation, time block for us to meet. And so Calendly for me, number one, next time you hear from us, I will have Calendly set up. So if you want to meet with me, ask for my Calendly.
Yeah, and I think that this is really great too because like you said, it shows your availability,
Mm-hmm.
but and so two things. It will sync to your calendar whatever
Mm-hmm.
you're using as long as it's digital. So your appointments will kind of pop up in your calendar. Just be sure if you marked that you're available, and then maybe something pops up and you're adding to your calendar, make sure you take that availability off.
Yeah.
So you're going to be Calendly is something that you're going to be constantly updating. It's always evolving, because you don't want someone to book with you and then you've double booked on accident. So just
Well,
be conscious of that.
I think that you would have to be actively using Google for everything.
Hmm.
Like I can't I Google Calendar myself for the 30 minutes it takes for me to pick up my kids. I Google Calendar myself for the travel time for this, that, and the other thing. And so make sure that you're actively using a calendar that can sync with Calendly before you decide to then open that wide open. Or be able to have Calendly updated on a daily basis. Cause yeah, that the manual effect of that when your day changes so much,
Mhm.
oh gosh, that would be
Yeah, it can be rough, but
yeah,
just
that could
avoid
be.
that altogether by doing what she said. Another thing that is time consuming that doesn't have to be is writing emails and responses. So
Mhm.
we've talked before about using ChatGPT, um, and that can be a game changer for you if you're trying to. Sometimes we just have brain fog, right? Where we're overloaded or we're short on time. You can go into ChatGPT and it will help you write your email. You can personalize it, copy and paste. You're getting your point across, but make sure that you're covering the main points and you're speaking naturally, right? So you want to make sure that I think that ChatGPT is a game changer not just for emails, but listing descriptions, social media, all the things.
Well, and with AI too, I think that when you look at that, I will do it's almost like my warm up. So I'm
Mhm.
like, "Hey, here's what I need to accomplish. Get my brain moving."
Yeah.
like I don't necessarily ever copy and
Mhm.
paste pretty much anything from ChatGPT, but if I'm like, "Hey, I need 3 options on how to respond to this, this objection essentially,
Mhm.
this email, and let chat gpt kind of get the conversation started for you. I think that that really is I mean, it's just going to avoid you're going to be thinking distracted and taking so much longer. I think that that is a huge thing. The other idea too with voice or sorry with email responses, especially if you are a vocal person. If talk is a love language of yours, and not necessarily, reading and typing it out, don't be afraid to respond to those emails with video messages. So
Yes.
there is no reason that you can't shoot a video message and to text it over to a client and say, "Hey, I got your email, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the response to that." Text that over to them. Feel free to give me a call, send me a text message. Feel free to talk to me in an angle that I'm, more likely to respond quicker and more efficiently than typing out an email. Another thing, voice to text.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Totally can make that happen as well. Most computers have that capability, not just on your phone.
Mhm.
Um, but I know that I can rattle off a email response, way faster than I can type in like it's almost like my brain takes longer to get to my fingertips than it does to my mouth. It's just a longer distance to travel. So it's like, let's get this out the mouth, not out the hands.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like the voice to text has been a game changer for me
mhm.
because we drive all the time. So now my car will read me my text message and it will be like, "Do you want to reply?" And I'm like, "Well, yes, I would." And 9 times out of 10, she can understand me. Sometimes if you don't have signal, whatever. But that has been a game changer because then I don't have to wait until I'm done driving to respond, or I don't have to text and drive.
Yeah. Even voice memos through
Hmm.
through texting too. Just all of those things. Like think about what slows you down. How can we get around that? What system? There's so many different things in technology that can help you get around any of those slowdowns.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so if you have a bunch of tasks, right? We've already kind of talked about time blocking, making your list, but make sure you map out a path. So kind of when you're looking at your day, kind of plan backwards.
Mm,
You could plan backwards and forwards. I guess it doesn't really matter if you have certain tasks, but plug in what are the main things that you're going to need to get done today. Check your deadlines, and also just be realistic. You're not going to shoot 50 videos and do 7 showings and write 15 offers and all of this in one day, right? You can't call every client in your database every day. So just break your day and your tasks up into achievable goals that you can get done because you're going to feel better about yourself, you're going to feel better about your business, and you're going to actually be doing the things that are on your list instead
mhm.
of, "Oh, I didn't get it done today, I'll just do that next week." You got to get stuff done. And we're in the fourth quarter now. We're almost done with 2023. So try to finish strong. Stay
Mhm.
motivated and finish strong. The year is not over. Um Interest rates are high, but people are still buying and selling, and you have to remember that.
Well, really what you're working on right now too is the first quarter going into next year
Yeah.
too, right? We're working on the business that we did in the last 2 quarters right now.
Mhm.
You're working into starting off next year strong. And so I think that you never know what do those interest rates look like in the first quarter. They might be completely different. And so definitely finishing strong, to start strong is a huge concept that you guys should be focusing your mindset on. I also think that every day, without a doubt, 100% every single day is going to have additional things thrown at you that are going to be added into your day that you're going to accomplish, etc. So I'm going to give you a cheater hack because this is how I fulfill my perfectionist soul.
Okay.
All right. So you have all of these extra things that you've accomplished. You look at your list and it's mapped out that morning you were starting with, and you really only accomplished two things off of that list. Go ahead and write down the 57 other things that you did accomplish that weren't on the list and check those puppies off. Who cares if they were added to it? I think that I look and I measure success in such a warped way that I'm like, oh, I got two things done. Meanwhile, I wrote three offers,
Mhm.
negotiated this, did all the things. Write those things down and check them off if that's what it's going to take for you to feel like you have crushed the day and moved on to the next. So, what if out of the 20 things that you wanted to do for that day, 18 of them have to move to the next day? Okay, no big deal. But you really have to look at, okay, did I really only get two things done today because everything else called my name? Write those things down, check them off, like be a cheater, whatever.
Yeah.
It's done.
Well, I think too, breaking it into smaller pieces
Yeah.
is kind of like what you're
Yep.
saying. So if are creating a social media campaign or like planning your first quarter marketing or whatever it may be, break it into smaller pieces because we know that some of those tasks cannot be completed in a day. You're not going to come up with your whole entire marketing plan for a year. Break it into smaller pieces so that way you can get it done and maybe it's not so overwhelming
Mhm.
when you go to do it. It's something that you can check off like you said.
Yeah, well, and the smaller pieces to it, just like I was talking about with portfolio reviews, when you have tasks that are recurring, kind of the system to get that done. So maybe today's task is not portfolio reviews. It's literally pull my list to figure out
Yeah.
what needs to happen. Okay, great. That's going to take all of 2 minutes. Okay, pull the reports for that. That's going to take all of 20 minutes. Okay, pull the Canva, breaking it down into the actual steps that's it's going to take is going to give you more check marks. It's going to have a higher level of feeling of success. And two, you can be going through that process and going, okay, I'm 9 out of the 10 steps done. But otherwise, if you're like portfolio reviews, only that, you wouldn't be able to check it off because you're not completely done. So that is a really,
Yeah.
really good point. Breaking it down. I also think that we've talked about like business goals, like when we have goals for first quarter. Okay, great. There's this one big lofty goal that's going to take the entire first quarter to make it happen. And when you're sitting there going, okay, that's just so daunting. Like, how the heck am I going to make that happen? When you look at that, look at how you can actually go, okay, for this week, I'm accomplishing this towards that goal. So what are the one or two action items that you're looking at, breaking that down to have the to do for this week towards a bigger thing that you're trying to accomplish. That could be easily, going into January. Okay, what are you doing New Year's Popeyes right now? What do you need to be doing leading up to that instead of it just being January Popeyes on a list in November where you're like, okay, that doesn't matter. Like that can be totally
Mhm.
pushed off. It doesn't need to happen. Meanwhile, you need to be ordering the marketing so that can come in. You need to be searching for sales. You need to be budgeting and figuring out, exactly what that's going to look like.
Yeah, and I think we keep talking about a daily or weekly checklist. Make a monthly checklist. So your month might look different, but like Tiffany said, she's going to do portfolio reviews every month. So that is on her monthly checklist, whether it happens the first week of the month or the last week of the month.
Mhm.
It is on one of our monthly things. So just be realistic with your goals, but don't be afraid to put it in a monthly category. And then just, you could even maybe create like a monthly checklist. Hey, I do this every single month. I call 10 clients a week. Okay, well, that could be on a weekly thing. And just create multiple lists. It doesn't have to just be one to do list for the day or the week.
Well, and if you're digital too, which for my list, I actually really prefer paper.
Me too.
But if you're trying to create the system of what's happening over and over again, Trello is an awesome
Mm.
app and program that you're able to have monthly lists that you just copy over and over again, weekly lists copied over and over again. So if you are digital and it's not like paper, there's something so satisfying about
I know.
checking that off
'Cause you
and
can
ripping
check it
that
off,
page off.
you could cross it off, you could
Yeah.
highlight. I mean, there's so
Yes,
many options.
for sure.
Another I mean, a couple other apps. I mean, I don't know about Android because 'cause we're iPhone users, but, iPhone has the Notes app, and you can put bubbles, and it will you can check off the bubbles.
Mhm.
And another one is Google Keep Notes.
And that's for any phone.
Mhm,
But I like the idea though with Trello or a program like that. Asana does the same
mhm.
type of concept that you can have a board and you can do the checklist, but then you can duplicate that. A lot of the other things that we're talking about, you manually have to recreate those checklists over and over again. So keep notes, notes just on the iPhone, and obviously your paper list that has to be manually done.
Well, even in Google Calendar, you can add tasks.
Mhm.
So it doesn't have to be you might not have to time block for something, but you're like, "Hey, I need to call my grandma today." That's a task. You
Mhm.
can just put it in, call her on your way to your appointment or whatever it is. But that's another option too. And that will stay on your thing until it's done.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I think that like one of the things for me when I'm looking at, okay, all right, done is better than perfect. And you have a capacity. And if you are a high performing agent and you get to capacity and you are, a team leader or top performing on a team and you have family, friends, all of those things, do not be afraid to ask for help. There's been so many times where Ashley has come to me and said, okay, cool. You are there's no human way possible that this is going to happen. Give me some tasks to do. I have free time this week. Give me some things to implement. Let's get some of this stuff checked off. And it's almost like when that happens, people that are around me can almost see me kind of hunched over, like where it's like the list is so debilitating
Yeah.
that there is no way I'm going to dig myself out of there because of real estate and because of life. There's sometimes where those lists pile up and you're not even accomplishing anything that was on your to do because all the other things came in behind the door. So do not be afraid to ask for help. I know the people that I surround myself with know to come to me because asking for help is 10 out of 10 something I'm not going to do because that's a task and
Yeah.
I'm not going to do
Mhm.
it. You know what I mean? But the people I surround myself with, it's like, it's almost honestly, it's like the burdensome of the to do. They can already read that all over me where it's like, cool, there's been times where I'm like, I can't even think straight to tell you what I need help with.
Yeah.
And then they'll go, Ashley is really great at this. Okay, great. Well, that's awesome. I know trunk or treat is coming up. So tell me what needs to be done with trunk or treat. Okay, great, this is happening. Okay, client appreciation. Okay, this mail out. This, like, almost be surrounding yourself with the people that know so well those things that are looming and
Mhm.
already burning you down, that you have almost like a foolproof where you cannot be faking it around those kind of people.
And
Um,
and don't be afraid to hire someone. So, starting small, you can hire someone like in a different country through Fiverr, Fiverr, or Upwork, and it's super cheap. These people can, upload clients into a CRM. If you're new to using a CRM and you're like it's daunting thinking about entering in all that data, they can do it, and some of the people work for like $5 an hour,
mhm,
right? So it's not expensive. And then you can progress and maybe hire a transaction coordinator and then maybe an assistant or whatever you're needing. It doesn't have to always be free help, right? It can be low cost or no cost. But I think as you progress and as you grow, you can't handle all of those
mhm,
tasks. And I think being realistic about that and saying, hey, I mean, it took me a really long time to offload onto a transaction coordinator. And now I'm like, oh, Sabrina's got it. I don't need to worry about it. Sabrina's got it.
yep,
But for the longest time, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to. I don't know. And it's been a game changer and it's amazing. Um, I would say another thing is having an accountability partner.
mhm,
We talk about that all the time.
all
If
the time.
Mark, my husband, is like, if you say hold me accountable one more time, I'm like, whatever. I need it. I need you to because I'll forget or
Yeah,
I won't do it. So whether that's a coach or a mentor, or just putting it out in the universe, like making a Facebook post. I want to lose 20 pounds by the end of the year, whatever. Put it out there because people will hold you accountable if you want them to.
Yeah. And I think that choosing the right person too, because I think that there's people that are like you and there's people that'll compliment you. And so when you look at that, make sure that you're choosing the right person that you're actually going to take serious, that you're actually going to want to be accountable to. So there's some people where it's like, hey, you hold me accountable. Okay, great. Yep, got it. It's done. No big deal. But those people that really know you, and then to the point where that accountability, it's not even you going to them. It's them already knowing that there's not enough progression that's happening, and they're calling you out on those things too.
Yeah,
So,
find someone that you would be embarrassed to tell that you didn't do it.
oh shoot, that's not you then.
Yeah, but I'll give you a hard time until you get it
I
done.
know it is. And that's the thing too. I think like we talk about Sabrina, our transaction coordinator. And so when she first started, she started with us as a new transaction coordinator, grew into, a powerhouse that she is today. And at the beginning, she'd be like, I don't want to bug them again. I don't want to bug them again.
Mhm.
And I was like, honestly, I need 42 touches before I actually make it a priority. That's
Yeah.
me. She knows that about me. So reminder emails, set up email
Mhm.
reminders, the text messages, the follow-up, etc. With Ashlee, she probably needs 5 reminders. With Lisa, she might need 100. With
Yeah.
Katie, she might need 25. Every person is different, but having people who know the level of check-in that's needed
Mhm.
to hold you accountable, make sure you're surrounding yourself with those people.
Well, and I feel bad when Sabrina asks me twice. Like if she's
Oh
like,
boy.
"Hey," well, like every week, for example, she's like, "You didn't share your listing of the week. Can you share it?" And I'm like, "Crap, I forget every single week." And I'm like, "You know what? Just set that email up on every Wednesday. You're going to send me that email." And I get it done, but I do feel bad when she has to remind me a few times for something cuz I'm like, "Man, I'm just not doing my job." Like Sabrina does everything for me, so I feel guilty when I don't do my part to help her do her part.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think that I do too. I definitely do too, but I also squirrel so much. And I think that she now knows that I do. So it's like she might remind me 4 times a day, where the example, what Ashlee just said, she reminds her once a week
Mhm.
because that second touch is going to get a response. For me, the same thing that has a Wednesday due date, she's emailing Ashlee on Wednesday. She's starting Sunday and starting those check ins. And some of that stuff is automated. So when I say schedule that reminder email, she's literally scheduling reminder emails where
Mhm.
it's like recurring for me. The same thing with text, scheduling text. So for me, I scroll way more than Ashlee does. And I also don't, sounds
Care?
really bad. I don't feel bad.
Oh my gosh.
I do care very heavily, but I don't feel bad.
Doesn't seem
So
like you care.
I care big, don't feel bad.
No, I feel bad anytime. Like the other day, she was like, "Hey, did you send out this closing date amendment?" And I'm like, "Oh, I said I was sending that out when I was driving, and then I forgot to do it. I'm so sorry." And I do because I'm like, "Oh yeah, we'll get that sent out." And then she was in New York on a vacation, like a true vacation, and I was like trying to do my best, and I failed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the other part too, where I'm like, don't ask me. Just do it, please.
Oh my gosh.
Don't ask me. If you can do it, please just do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree for sure. I think that the other part, we've talked a bunch about deadlines, putting deadlines on things, but not waiting to the last minute for those deadlines. So I brought up the example of events that we've had. And so we are constantly the day of for events because
Yeah.
I do not task stuff out. I do not delegate, and I work on a last minute list, and that's
Mhm.
really I work best under pressure, under fire. If it's due tomorrow, I will see you tonight at midnight to get that done. Um, and we have been so much less stress. Getting those things like months in advance, like getting as much as we can ahead of time. I also feel like we've saved a ton of money because we're not, rush shipping or rush
Yeah,
doing anything
overnight
to,
shipping
yes,
for no reason.
for no reason at all. So, looking into that first quarter right now and going, okay, what can we start to work on where we're not putting ourselves under a pressure cooker, saving money by not doing things last minute? Those deadlines, I think that having them on those big to-dos, will really help you kind of break it down into smaller steps, make it more attainable, and really be successful in getting done sooner.
I think setting expectations is powerful as well. So if you know your deadlines for your contract,
Mhm.
um, don't be afraid to put those out to your clients. Hey, we have until Friday to make a decision. We have until Friday to get our home inspection done. This way, we get it scheduled within that time frame. Everybody's tracking the date. Again, Google Calendar them, and it'll keep everybody on track.
Yeah. No, I agree, I agree. I mean, we have gone over a ton of different ideas,
Hmm.
a ton of different things. I think you gotta figure out what works for you, for sure. I think that, if you're in meetings and you need to be taking notes, but you need to stay focused, there's different note-taking apps that will run, the meeting notes for you. If you can, keep lists like in Google Keep, in Asana, in the Notes app, any of those things that you can do to keep yourself organized. And really, you have to remember running list and your to do are two completely different things.
Hmm.
So I have way more than I could ever accomplish in a week on a running list, way more things that should be happening at one time, things that should be delegated, things that I should be doing. And then you have real estate in the mix of
Hmm.
that. And so make sure that you're keeping almost like a master and then pulling and planning, like Ashlee was saying, on Sunday. What does your week look like to time block that out into the week? But don't expect that that running list that you're keeping is going to be something that you're going to accomplish, in a week's time.
Well, I like that you brought up the running list because sometimes, like, if I'm on Instagram and I like somebody else's post or reel and I'm like, "Oh, I need to make that." Write it down or save it or whatever it is because sometimes some days you feel more creative, more inspired than other days.
Mhm.
And you don't want to forget your ideas. So if you can write it down or I don't want to even say make a mental note because we'll forget.
Yeah.
The reality is you'll forget. So make sure it is kept somewhere so that way when you are ready to make that video or you don't have an idea or you can't remember, it's on your list somewhere. It's written down somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. And if you guys have any ideas to anything that has just kept you hyper focused, task oriented, done better than perfect, if there's anything that you can add to this conversation, feel free to send us a message. We would love to collaborate with you guys. I think I have a ton of room and growth to be had,
Yeah, you do.
probably forever in my life. Ashley's like, yes, please, let's have
Yes,
this
let's
episode.
grow. Grow right now. Put that on your list.
Yes, really, right. I'm like, no, I need to delegate. Your list is about to be overflowed on that. But if you guys have any ideas, we would love to add to this. Would love to collaborate with you guys as a community as well.
All right. If this episode did not want to make you get organized, I don't know what will.
I know I have a little checklist notebook that is about to be on fire.
Yeah, same. I make my checklist every Sunday, and then I keep my running list going. I'll add to the list. But I think my main takeaway is making sure that everything is in my calendar and trying my hardest to not cancel on myself. So, coming back from this conference, like this morning, I've already gone back to the gym. I feel amazing. I feel more awake and more productive than I have in a while. And I want to put my social media in my calendar as well because I've been slacking, not going to lie. And I need to be able to check it off.
Yeah, for sure. And I think my top takeaway from today is Calendly. I need to auto sync that, which that means I need to be putting everything into my Google Calendar. I also need to be categorizing my Google Calendar as well. So there's things that are just reminders that they're happening, but not stuff that I need to be present at. So getting that organized, my Google Calendar, my Calendly, and then that gives the room for realistic time blocking,
Mhm.
so that I can take my list and get that into implementation mode.
Yeah, and what you just said too, categorizing, Google Calendar makes it really easy. You can color code and like for example, my family stuff is yellow.
Mhm.
So I know, okay, it's a yellow thing. It's for my family,
Yep.
not canceling.
not canceling.
Yeah.
Yep. So many different ideas. We love to share with you guys. We love to collaborate. And we cannot wait to see this actually put the fourth quarter into motion for you, rolling into a successful 2024.
All right, guys. If you found this helpful, share it with a friend, give it a download, 5-star review. You can find us everywhere on social, and we will see you next time on Real Estateable.